Hey folks, today I just want to take a few minutes to speak to you about the purpose of prophecy. And we're going to start by reading a verse from the Bible found in 1 Corinthians 14. And it's verse 3, and it says, "When someone prophesies, he speaks to encourage people, to build them up, and to bring them comfort." So the primary purpose of prophecy is to encourage, it is to strengthen, and it is to comfort the people of God, whether that's individuals or whether that is communities. But often when we think of prophecy, we think of it in the context of the Old Testament, where prophets primarily brought words of prediction or direction or correction. You just have to think of Isaiah or Jeremiah or Ezekiel or, to name a few. They brought correction to the people of Israel. When they were disobedient, they say, "Here, you got to come back into line with what God says. Come back into line with and be obedient to God." And they told them that if they didn't change their ways, they would be destroyed, they'd be removed from the promised land, and carried off into captivity. And if you've read the Old Testament, you will know that that is exactly what happened. And the thing is, many prophetic people today, they actually model their ministry around the Old Testament prophets. But that's incorrect, that's inaccurate, because we no longer live under the old covenant. We live in a brand new covenant. We live in the new covenant that was instituted by Jesus. And you will recognize these types of prophetic people by the words that they bring. They will claim natural disasters are God's judgment and wrath, and they will predict the return of Jesus, which will always be incorrect, because the Bible tells us, Jesus said himself, "I do not know the time, only the Father knows." So if the Jesus doesn't know, there ain't any chance that any of us are going to know. It's only the Father that knows. And then these types of people as well, they will often operate outside of relationship and covering. They're usually not connected to the local church. They usually don't have a great relationship with the local church, and you will see them as lone rangers, kind of doing their own thing. But that is not how prophecy is supposed to operate in the new covenant, or that's not how it's supposed to operate with us today. So in the new covenant, for us today, the primary purpose of prophecy, like we've read, is to encourage, strengthen, and comfort the people of God. There are still elements of prophecy which are directional and correctional in nature, but that is not its primary function. And let me say one more thing just before we expand on what it looks like to bring encouragement, strength, and comfort through the prophetic. So in the Old Testament, prophets were judged on the accuracy of their words, and there was no room for mistakes. There was no grace. There was no room for mistakes. So if the prophet brought an accurate word, he was stoned to death because he had misrepresented Yahweh. That is what happened. There was no room for infallibility. If you got something wrong, that was it. It was you were done. It was over. But this is not the case in the New Testament and for us today. So the Spirit of God now resides in every believer, so we're all enabled to weigh and test words brought by prophets and prophetic people. So which means that prophets, prophetic people are no longer infallible. We should not expect them to be so, and they definitely should not claim to be so. If someone's telling you that they've got, if you say to someone, "Hey, I don't think that was right, that doesn't really land," and they say, "Well, you're wrong," I would pay attention. I'd steer away from people like that, because the reality is they operate in a different way than in the Old Testament, and there is infallibility, and we are told to test the words that they bring. So the primary purpose, so going back then, the primary purpose of prophecy in the New Covenant is to encourage, strengthen, and comfort the people of God. But the big thing is, what does this look like in practice? How is this outworked? So let me take the first one, prophetic encouragement. So the prophetic brings encouragement by calling out and affirming the goal that God has placed within people. I wonder if you ever noticed this, that criticism is always specific, but encouragement is often vague. We'll say something, "Hey, well done, great job," but often we don't specify what was good or how it impacted us. But if you think of criticism then on the other hand, well, we've no problem being specific with that. We will say exactly what was wrong and how it made us feel. So I think it's really important that we start to be specific in our encouragement. Just imagine me coming to you and saying, you know what, I just felt the Lord wants to encourage me that he loves you. But then compare that with me coming to you and saying, I felt the Lord wants to encourage me that he loves you. He just loves your faithfulness towards him and your commitment to pursuing his heart. He loves that you model his heart so well to the world, and he is just so proud of you. You're his beloved daughter. His smile is upon you, and he rejoices over you with singing. Do you see the difference there? The first one feels empty. It feels generic. It doesn't carry any real weight. The second one, however, carries the prophetic heart of the Father and will bring a deep sense of encouragement to the recipient. So this is prophetic encouragement. It's calling out the gold that God has placed within people. The second thing then is prophetic strength. So the prophetic brings strength by building people up in God's preferred destiny for their lives. So it builds upon their identity and starts to speak of who they are called to be and what they are called to do. It flows along a similar vein to encouragement, but it goes further, and that it establishes people in who they are and what they're called to do. So let me give you an example. Several years ago, maybe like 5-6 years ago, in our church, in one of our worship gatherings, I think it was like a Wednesday night, a midweek thing, there was a girl there, and I felt the Lord really put her on my heart and share some things with me about her and about her future. And the reality is that her life looked nothing like that in that moment. And I was even a little bit surprised by what the Lord had shared with me. And I had never seen this, I'd never thought this. But I wanted to be obedient to what I felt he was saying. So I shared these words with her, that she was called to, her voice had authority, that she was called to speak, she was called to preach, and so on and so forth, and a few other things as well. But in that moment, her life did not in any way look like that reality. But over the last few years, we have seen her, and I have seen her journey this word and other words that have been shared with her as well along a similar vein. And she has then started to make decisions in line with what God has spoken over her life. So there's something about the prophetic that goes beyond encouragement, that it actually helps you, empower you to make bold decisions in pursuit of fulfilling God's preferred destiny for your life. So it allows you to stay committed and confident in the midst of challenges, difficulties, and the negative perceptions of others. So this person, for example, they basically felt God was telling them to change their career, to move away from their job, to move home, to do different things like that. And the prophetic, what that did, it gave them the strength to go against the flow, that even though it didn't really make sense, that even though others maybe around them weren't kind of sure why or what the crack with that is, but God was speaking clearly, and he was bringing strength, and he was bringing that like boldness to say, do you know what, I am going to be committed and confident in the words that he has spoken. And now that person is really beginning to step into the fullness of who God's called them to be. And it's just incredible to see how the prophetic can just really strengthen people in their walk with God and the journeying through what they're called to do. So that's prophetic strength. And then third and final thing is prophetic comfort. So the prophetic can bring great comfort to people in the midst of difficult circumstances. And I have found that one of the most comforting things when I'm in a difficult season or a difficult situation is to know that the Lord is with me, and that his promises that he has spoken over my life and who he is does not change, irrespective of what is going on. It's still true no matter what. So to receive a prophetic word that speaks into a difficult situation when the person giving the word has no knowledge of what's going on, that can be extremely powerful, and it makes you feel known by God, and it gives you confidence that he is with you in the midst of everything. So the prophetic can bring great comfort in times of great difficulty. So just to recap real quick, the primary purpose of prophecy is not to bring prediction, it's not to bring direction, it's not to bring correction, but it is to bring encouragement, strength, and comfort to the people of God. That is the primary purpose of the prophetic. But if you do receive words about prediction or direction or correction, they should still always bring encouragement, strength, and comfort. The prophetic cannot exist outside of encouragement, strength, and comfort. It must always do those three things. Even if there's a bit of direction or correction with it, even there's a bit of a predictive element in it, it should still always bring encouragement, strength, and comfort. That is the heart and that is the hope of the Father. So thank you for listening. I hope that's been helpful. So just make sure when you're moving in prophecy, when you're bringing prophetic words, that they're encouraging, they're strengthening, and they're comforting. And that will put you in a great position to really bring transformation into people's lives and to represent the heart of the Father well. So thank you for listening, and I will speak with you soon. God bless.